And now I think it might be, I hate to say it, but it might be time to talk about the darker side of gaming. And now what I mean by that is, I'm just going to finish off really quick by saying I wanted to say my last thought on the G2A Academy before we move on to the next topic here. If you're not a teacher, you can also take part in the G2A Academy. You can buy it, and all of the money will be donated to charity. Isn't that wonderful? So on that note, yeah, I sent the link in the chat. I'll send it once again. I see we have some new people coming in. So there you go, guys. I see we have a question from Facebook. Logan Curley, when did this begin? Logan, this began last Friday. You are witnessing history, my friend. You're going to be able to tell your kids, I was there when the G2A podcast experience began. We're going to be, by that point, we're going to be by like episode 5087. Hopefully, right? But yeah, so that's G2A Academy. And it's awesome. It's awesome. Check it out, guys. Check it out. So over the week, there has been an article that came out specifically about the city that I grew up in. Now, that's for those of you that missed the last podcast, the last Friday that we did. I did talk about how we got here, right? We talked about where did you come from, where did you go, how did you get here, Cotton Eye Joe. I don't know why I like saying that. I just do. I don't know. I don't know. I'm weird. It's yeah. So yeah, as some of you may or may not know, I was raised in Chicago. I was born in Poland, but I was raised in Chicago. Now, Chicago in some points of the city can really be like the wild, wild west. And there's some things that sometimes happen that are just unexplainable and sad. But, I guess that just goes with the territory of being a big old city with like 5 million people. And what I'm talking about is the main topic, I guess, for today would be this. Illinois legislators want to ban Grand Theft Auto and other violent video games in hopes of reducing crime. Steve, when you look at this title, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
I would honestly say maybe repetitiveness. This game gets featured so many times throughout the years as like, oh, this game should be banned because it causes violence. And for me, it gets a little bit tiresome that it happens like every year once at least. Grand Theft Auto is an 18+ game. It's there. Like, children should not be playing it. Parents should be kind of controlling them. That's simple. But you will be able to tell me more on this, Mike, that Chicago is, like, the crime in Chicago is not really caused by violent video games. You grew up there. You can tell me, what was it like? Like, how mean of the streets were Chicago? Did you feel safe there? Tell me a bit more.
Okay. It's actually a good question. And I actually get this asked a lot. I think, all right, let me just start by saying this. A lot of people in Europe that have never visited the United States or Chicago for that matter get a sort of a false pretense. It's hard to say because people consume media these days a lot, and I would have to say that the way that people view the United States is mostly subjugated by the media, unfortunately, because they don't have the option to have a first-hand experience with visiting a city like Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, for that matter. Is this live? If yes, Frank Torres, this is live. Welcome to the stream, man. How you doing? So I think a lot of people don't really have that first-hand experience, and they're fed by the media about things that happen outside of the world. Now, Chicago at one point, it was called Chirac. Do you know the reason why it was called Chirac? Because at one point in the history of Chicago, there was more murders than there were in. There was more people dying than there were when the war in Iraq was going on. So hence the name. That's why people called it Chirac. I think people don't call it like that. That was like maybe like 2010, like maybe earlier. But yeah, it's not really a good name to have, right? But it sort of makes a statement. Yes, there is a lot of gang violence. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of bad shit happening in Chicago, but not only in Chicago, right? In a lot of just the United States in general. I mean, it is the melting pot of the world. There's people there from all sorts of nations and backgrounds and countries, and you know, it's like the world's melting pot, as they say, right? There is a lot of underlying issues that come with a statement like this, that the legislators want to ban Grand Theft Auto and other violent video games, because I'm going to try to say this with an open mind. Maybe some percentage this might be true. Maybe in some small percent of people that play violent video games turn violent. However, I believe that if there are people out there like that turn violent because they played violent video games, there's more of a psychological problem that is happening, right? I think. So, and people might not notice this at first, and they just blame video games, right? Like, hey, when Columbine happened, okay? When Columbine happened, for those of you that don't know or need a refresher, Columbine was the Columbine massacre happened. I forgot which state it was in. Here, let me see really quick. But shortly said, the Columbine massacre was a very sad day in the history of the United States, as in Colorado. It happened in Colorado. It was a sad day in the history of the United States in the year 1999, April 20th. I have the Wikipedia here up, so it's not like I know these things by heart. But it happened when two kids went into a school and started shooting kids. They started shooting teachers, and they killed a lot of people. And then they killed themselves. Okay? And people didn't know who to blame. They didn't know what to blame. They didn't know what to do, because that has never happened before. So what they started to do is they started to blame video games on the Columbine massacre. And, you know, especially violent video games, not just video games, violent video games, you know, shooting games and stuff like that. And in reality, there was a bunch of underlying issues that happened with those two guys, those two men, because I'm pretty sure that I don't know how old they were. I think they were like maybe 18. I'm not sure. But there was a lot of psychological trauma that they went through that led to the event of the Columbine High School massacre. Okay, and people didn't realize that. They didn't realize that until after the fact. There was no way that they could have prevented it, you know, because it was going to happen, right? A lot of people lost their lives that day, and it was a really sad day in the history of the United States. Now, going forward in time a little bit to this article. Okay, there it is. Like I said, there's a lot of underlying issues as to why this might be happening. If we read down in the article a little bit, if we read the first paragraph here. Good morning, real Donald Trump. How you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. Hello. A Democratic state representative of in Illinois is looking to ban violent video games such as Grand Theft Auto, believing them to be responsible for a rise in carjackings and other violent crime in Chicago and the rest of the state. So, I have a major problem with this. Because they're making it seem like carjacking has only started since the release of Grand Theft Auto. Like, do you honestly think that carjacking only started when video games started to become a popular thing, or when Grand Theft Auto started to become a popular thing? No, people were stealing cars since the inception of cars, since it started happening, right? So, if we read on a little bit more here, let's see. So let's see. We have. So Representative Marcus Evans Jr. has introduced an amendment to Bill HB 3531, seeking to prohibit the sale of all violent video games throughout the state. The effort faces many challenges. In 2011, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a less restrictive California law, which sought to restrict the sale of violent video games to children. The 7-2 ruling in that case made it clear that the First Amendment protection outweighed the concerns of lawmakers. Now, what is the First Amendment, for those of you that don't know? Because this is also important. The First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? Congress, here we go. Okay, there we go. The First Amendment. Freedom of religion, speech, and press. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, of abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, what I think this basically means is that people just have the right to exercise freedom of speech. I don't know why I keep saying speech. Of speech, and to exercise that right by media. Now, this obviously concerns adults, right? Children cannot do the same things that adults do, because they're children, right? They don't know better. Their brains are not that developed yet to have that understanding of what is maybe right, of what is wrong. And and I believe that, this is the main reason why there's violent video games like Grand Theft Auto that are rated M for mature, or in Europe it's PEGI 18, right? There's a different rating system. To prevent children from playing these games. Now, as this article mentioned, that in 2011 they tried to pass a less restrictive California law, which restricted the sale of violent video games to children. Okay, now this should already be like a natural thing. You shouldn't allow your kids to play video games where you kill people and steal cars and have sex with prostitutes and, do these things. Because in the long run, there could be some psychological damage. Maybe not damage, but psychological, maybe a rewiring of their brains. Right. And I think
sorry, if I just interrupt you a second. I know the access to these games are strictly not for people under 18, but when I was growing up, my friends, a lot of them, we all had access to Grand Theft Auto. Our parents were buying them, and I would honestly say that I've never met somebody that's taken Grand Theft Auto out of the game and try to do anything from it. So we've all been able to control our ourselves, and we know that a video game is a video game. We're not going to go outside. We're not going to hit people with a baseball bat. We're not going to steal a car. I don't think that it's necessary. I mean, I know that we shouldn't be giving games to people under 18, but honestly speaking, well, we've all been here where we've played games or we've watched movies where we're not 18 and we're doing it. But a lot of us are not, taking these out of their mediums. We're not causing havoc with them. So why is video games being used in this example? If we're asking about video games, we should be also saying about movies. Kids should not be watching 18-year-old movie, 18 plus movies. They have exactly the same type of context in there. Why is video games being the one targeted? It should not only be like rap music, for example. People have always said that, rap music is a bad influence because they talk about, drugs, crime. Okay, so why not, switch it to rap music? Why is it always video games? That's my question.
Well, rap music is a reflection of the situation that most rappers grew up in, whether it was poverty and I don't know, father was in jail, single mother raising a kid didn't have any education. This is like a stereotypical story that just everyone knows, right? But it's true and it's sad. But sometimes kids don't know that. They don't know that. Like, you see, like, they hear like a rap song about drugs, violence, and women, and then they think that that's like reality, right? And that money, but maybe that's a different topic for a different time. I see that we have some comments here on Facebook. I wanted to start off with Rolads here, or Roalad. I don't know how to say your name, dude. I'm sorry. So he says, if anything, it's going to cause more crime. Games keep people indoors. Take it away, and they start making trouble outdoors. Endless discussion games don't turn people into criminals. That should be known by now. I like, and it's true. It's true. Video games keep people indoors. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's ever been, maybe, I don't know. I might be speaking, I don't know. I might be wrong on this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there has ever been a person that has killed someone that has been like, I did this because I played GTA 5. Right? That was like the only reason. Like, I did this because, I played a shooting game or Call of Duty or whatever. I don't think there has ever been a person that did that. And there's been a lot of studies in the past where it just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. There was no correlation between violent video games and murder or carjackings or general violence. Right? It's always, and if there is always some kind of underlying issue that is happening with that person, with that individual, whether they had a rough upbringing, or whether they're going through some kind of trauma, some psychological pain. Maybe they were, abused as a child, in whether it's sexual or physical or something, and they want to get back at the world. There's always some kind of underlying issue that makes people tick when they get older or when they start doing violent acts. Right? It's not just video games. Banning video games isn't going to solve the goddamn problem. That's the bottom line. It's not,
From someone from the UK, like you said in the past, that the news I get from the States is all through the media. And I think one thing that I noticed is that Chicago is a state where there's a lot of poverty. The schooling is not very great. So can you tell me more? How can, for example, video games be a cause of violence where the system is failing their citizens in Chicago?
Well, this is a very in-depth topic, right? I mean, there's a lot of I'm not some kind of I'm not a government official, I'm not like, obviously, right? I'm a streamer, and I yell, and I like to yell at my teammates while I'm playing CS:GO. However, I lived in Chicago, and the poverty, and it's real, man. And there's a lot of issues that go with like the lack of education, and people like actually seeing that there's more to life than just drugs and violence, right? And stealing cars, right? The problem with that is their surroundings. There is some really, really rough parts of Chicago that people don't get out of, that the government pays no attention to, that any support related efforts are bad. They don't work. There is people that are trying. There's people there's organizations that are getting people to see the light, per se, right? But the problem is people are stuck in this vicious cycle of not seeing the bigger picture, right? There's kids that have that grow up in poverty and gang violence, and they don't have a dad. They don't have any good role models. Let's say, I don't know, the mom is always working, or maybe is on drugs or something like that, and they don't see any other option but to like join a gang and just cause violence and cause havoc, right? Havoc.
The key word that you're saying here is poverty. So how do people get out of poverty? Well, they do illegal acts. They try and steal cars. They try and do drugs. They sell drugs.
Exactly. How do you legitly get out of poverty when you're in a situation that is 100% against you? And you're born into this. You were born into this kind of life. You don't have a choice. You don't see anything else. I've known people in Chicago that haven't left the ghetto in 20 years, dude. I've met people like that. They've told me about it. And I've met people that grew up in the west side of Chicago. For those of you that live in Chicago, know what the west side is. It's like one of the worst parts of the city, and it's 20 minutes away from the city center. It's 20 minutes away from like downtown Chicago with all the big buildings and millions and hundreds of thousands of people walking around everywhere. And I've met people that haven't even left their neighborhood in like 30 years, dude, to go to the city when it's 20 minutes down the street from them. Now, try to imagine that. You're living in a neighborhood that is against you. Society is not there to help you, and it's up to you to actually get out of this by having a strong will and a stronger state of mind, right? And sometimes you don't have a choice. You are pigeonholed into these unfortunately very negative situations. And this isn't only happening in Chicago. This is Michigan, Detroit, Los Angeles, New York. I mean, the Bronx. Like, it's not only in Chicago. It's a thing in the entire country, right? And in the end, it's not going to solve banning violent video games is not going to solve the goddamn problem. It's you know what? It's like putting a bandaid over a bleeding wound, right? It's like you're not going to stop with like you're not going to stop a gunshot with a little kid's bandaid, right? That's not going to happen. You're going to die, and that blood is going to come out, right? Depending on where you get shot, right? I see we have some more comments here from Logan Curley. He said he's also. Oh no, I'm sorry. Kin Giatti says his parents live in Chicago, And Logan says that he's from Seattle. Crime isn't as big of a deal here, but I really hear you. Blamed on Marilyn Manson. Yeah, there's another thing. Like, people blame celebrities. People want to find a reason for these things that are happening. They want to find a reason, and the easiest scapegoat to have or to blame is either video games or Marilyn Manson. Like, it blows my mind because people, like, we as a society, we don't know how to deal with these types of things. We don't know how to deal with mass murder as a society. We don't know how to do it. We don't know how to stop it. We don't know how to deal with carjackings. Do you think that a person that has ever stolen a car wakes up one day and he's like, you know what? I'm going to steal a fucking car today. I don't care. No. People don't just wake up and do that kind of stuff. It's a process that happens over the period of time, over experiences, and it's not just like one day you snap and you're like, hey, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to steal a car. I'm going to go shoot this person. I'm going to go rob a store. It doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. And I personally think that the way that we could stop or at least try to prevent these types of things from happening is having outreach programs that want to help people that are in situations like that, because it's really a difficult topic to talk about and to think about. I mean, if you really think about it, it's hard, man. Like, it's, for me at least, it is. For me, because I've seen it, dude. I've seen it. I've lived through it. And it sucks. It really does suck.
Maybe you know more about statistics. So, for example, like, how do you, like, on a list, what is like the top crime? I can tell you now, it's probably going to be gang violence or police brutality, neither of which can be at all connected to GTA. Sorry.
Not connected to G2A, dude.
I mean, it can't be connected to us anyway. So.
Yeah.
But how can these be connected to GTA in any way? It can't, because it's more about, for example, the people in the area brought up in poverty. They don't know a way to escape. The police, they come. They have guns. The police protecting themselves, and it gets out of hand. How can video games be? Or maybe you can tell me the statistics. Like, what are the leading causes of violence or crimes in Chicago? Do you have those statistics?
I don't, but you know what? I can ask Uncle Google, dude. Like, I can just ask Google here. That's actually a good thing. What are the leading causes? I got spelled leading with a K for some reason. Leading causes of crime. Let's see what Google spits out. And it spits out exactly what I was thinking it was going to spit out. Here, let me make this big. The causes of crime are complex. Poverty, parental neglect, low self-esteem, alcohol and drug abuse can be connected to why people break the law. Some are at greater risk of becoming offenders because of the circumstances into which they are born in. Didn't we just talk about this? This isn't information that isn't known. Okay. Over the years, we've sort of grown accustomed to these things, right? We've become desensitized, and it's sad. And the only way that we could stop the crime is to get to the root of the problem, which is the person that's doing the crime, and we have to evaluate what led them to the situation that they're in right now, whether it's a carjacking, a robbery, overdosing, or whatever. What happened in their lives that made them do this thing, right? And it's easier said than done. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not some kind of economist. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. no one knows how to solve the problem. But we can start taking steps to at least try. Okay.
Why doesn't the states kind of invest more into, like, for example, these communities, like more into protection, more into schooling? Why hasn't the state done more of this?
That's a good question. Why haven't they invested more into getting better schools, into, giving kids the opportunity to do things after school, like, having some extra curriculum sort of types of things, like, I don't know, playing a sport, or, doing something positive for society? Why? I don't know why, Steve. It's probably because there's money to be spent on other topics that are more important. And I hate to say it, but that's how history shows, man. History shows there's billions of dollars being flooded into things like war and arms races and elections, and no one's looking at the actual problem, which is to make our society a better place. Yeah. And
you're saying that you knew a lot of these, like, people, or some of these people. If you could tell me, how many of these people would have access to video games, and would they have, like, the updated?
None of them.
So why are they? How can they possibly?
Maybe not none of them, but do you think a person that has never? Okay, maybe drug dealers, because they have money, right? They have money, so they can buy whatever they want. But
I'm pretty sure a drug dealer is not getting into drug dealing because of GTA.
No,
they're doing it because they want power, they want money, they want everything.
They want to get in. They want to get out of the shitty situation that they might be in, and whether that's poverty, having no money or whatever, that's the reason, right? There might be other underlying problems, but drug dealers, I think that, they become drug dealers because they just want to get out of the shitty situation that they're in. And but is that the first thing on their mind, that a drug dealer might wake up and be like, damn, I got to play some Grand Theft Auto because I got to get some motivation to sell drugs today? No. Like, it's just that it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, Steve. It doesn't make sense.